Alrighty guys, welcome back to Balake's Fish Room. So today what I'm going to be doing is a video on the top 6 tips on keeping a community of different sized Central American cichlids. So I'm going to be focusing on this tank here, which has the Mascareros argenteus. So we've got Cronus and Rhea is out the back there. And then we've got the convex cichlids, which are much smaller. But yeah, there's a few things that I really wanted to cover off. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. Okay, so I guess we'll start off with probably what I think should come first before anything else is number one, you need to identify the risks. So by identifying the risks, you're looking at the different potential scenarios that might unfold in the tank if you're keeping a bunch of different fish with each other. So when, for example, and I'm going to use this tank as a perfect example for all these points, but I will kind of shoot down to the fish room from a previous video to show you a different tank of a few different species and everything that goes on down there. So so the first one is the identifying of the risks. So with this tank, obviously the biggest risk factor is this guy right here. So he's a 12-inch long Mascareros argenteus. The second biggest fish in here is the female, which is back there fighting with the convex cichlids at the moment. So the biggest risk to me with looking at just everything that's in the tank is being very realistic, is this fish and the female back there, the two argenteus. The cost of those two is pretty high. They're not a very common fish in Australia, and as compared to the convex cichlids that we've got a couple darting around here, they're absolutely gorgeous. But you've got to think of the first thing that comes to mind is, well, okay, the thing that I don't want to lose in this tank is the big Mascareros argenteus. So the biggest risk factor is how could these two be in trouble, I guess. And to me, the female I don't think is much of a threat to the male, although, you know, I could be totally wrong and she could turn one day. But the male is very aggressive and you know, territorial, and until probably the last 4 or 5 weeks, they've not got along together. She's always been hiding down in these logs, and it's only until recently when I changed around the tank and everything that these two are getting along pretty well. So I mean, they're probably gonna just chase each other away and be really aggressive right now because I'm filming, but okay, no, they're not doing too bad. So yeah, so that's the female Rhea and Cronus, the male. So identifying the risks, that's a big risk that we want, that we need to identify in the tank, is that the female is at risk of being killed by the male if he gets too angry. Okay, so number 2, I would say, is you've got to choose your tank mates carefully. So we're looking at these beautiful little convex cichlids that are darting around the tank everywhere we look, pretty much. We got the white variation, we've got the dark variation, and we've actually got a bunch of fry. They're just darting around here under the female at the moment, just eating all the little scraps and everything. So we've got the male, which is this white guy here, and the female there. So they've got a bunch of fry. But the tank mates that we choose is really important. So I guess that should probably actually come before the first step, is you need to identify the fish that you actually want to keep together and the fish that will work, because there are some scenarios where the fish just won't work together. So a couple of examples like this is, if you've got a 6-foot tank like this one is, you're probably not going to want to keep a Dovi with an argenteus. The argenteus are very aggressive, but the Dovi are much more aggressive and have much bigger teeth. So you're probably going to end up with a dead argenteus. So there's certain situations that just will not work. But when we're looking at these types of setups and everything, it's kind of hit and miss with everything, and with these Central American cichlids, it very much does come down to the individual fish. You know, this guy started out really aggressive. He's kind of calmed down and is very, very relaxed now in the tank. But you could just have a really mean fish. So, you know, you have to think about the types of fish that you actually want to keep, and make sure that they're going to be good long term together. So that's choosing the appropriate tank mates. Okay, so tip number 3 is strategic feeding. So for this tank, I've got 2 different foods that I feed regularly. So I've got both Hikari products, but we've got the Hikari algae wafers. So these wafers, they're pretty big in size. So see if I can focus in there. So they're pretty big. You can see them. They're about probably 2 centimeters in diameter. And then we've got these Hikari XL, which are the veggie pellets, which are just really small little pellets, which suit the convicts absolutely perfectly. So we've got them already measured out. So we'll show you what I mean by strategic feeding. So for this tank, Cronus, the Argenteus, he's really aggressive when he feeds. So if I put a bunch of little pellets and everything in there, he just goes really crazy around the tank. There's a couple of things I'm worried about. One, he might hurt himself. He might just run into something when he's being crazy when he's eating. But 2, he might attack some of the other fish. So when you have a fish like that that's in the tank, when it comes to feeding time and they're really aggressive, I would highly recommend feeding them first. So that's what I mean by strategic feeding. So you might have a totally different scenario in your tank where you've got to feed up one end of the tank, where you feed one fish, and then down the other end of the tank, once that one's distracted with the food, that you feed it down there. But for me, for this tank, what I need to do is I need to feed Cronus first. So I've got a bunch of his veggie wafers. So he eats the veggie wafers pretty much whole. So he usually gets 3 or 4 in his gob. So, but we also need to feed the peppermint bristlenose. So I'm just gonna pour a few of the veggie wafers in the top here. So we see that fall down, and instantly he just gobbles them up. So he's probably gonna get 3 or 4, maybe more. Who knows? But well, he's only got 1 at the moment because nothing else is really trying to go for it. But he usually gets a bunch in his mouth in the first instance, and he's very territorial about the algae wafers. So while he's being fed and he's nice and distracted, that's when you go and you pour in your other food. So you can see he's protecting his algae wafers pretty aggressively. So while he's doing that and while he's nice and distracted, we're just going to go in with the rest of the small XL. So we'll pour some in this side and we'll go some in the middle. And so while he's nice and distracted with all the algae wafers and everything like that, that he can that the rest of the fish can get a nice mouthful. So that's usually when Rhea starts to come out as well. So she'll pop down and she'll try and get some food. He'll just keep protecting those algae wafers, but you know, for example, you might need to flood the tank with bloodworms to be able to feed all the little fish. If you've got a big aggressive fish, like there might be a whole bunch of different scenarios. So that's tip number 3 is strategic feeding. Think about how and the order of which you need to feed your fish. It works pretty well. So alrighty, so we're going to get on to tip number 4, which is we're going to have designated territories for the fish. So starting off in front of this tank, which is down in the fish room, which has a bunch of different fish in there. So we've got the Marwood fenestratus, we've got a breeding pair of them, we've got a breeding pair of Salvini, breeding pair of red-based snooks, we've got a few of the Cryptoheros spirillus, which are the blue eyes, and everything in this tank has a designated territory. So we've got a couple of the big pots at each end. We've got this little blue pot that's in the middle there for the Salvini, and we've got a couple of logs. We've got a couple of tall plants and everything, for there to be a little bit of a different territory behind those as well. So I guess when you're looking at a tank, you've got to set it up for one, aesthetics, but two, for yeah, so you've got to set it up for aesthetics, but you've also got to set it up for different places, for different territories for your fish to call home. So so now that we're onto this tank, for example, the different territories that I've got laid out for this aquarium, we've got this area here where Cronus, the big Argenteus, he can go into this this big hidey hole here. It goes all the way through, and he kind of calls this whole corner home. This long passageway, the fish that's most at risk is Rhea back there, which is the female. So she's got the biggest territory, which is this terracotta pipe that runs through here. A little bit of a gap for her, and then all the way through with this log. So and then over here we've got another pot, so it's another option if the big fish start to spawn, they can. The convict cichlids, they actually spawned in there, so they use that this time. But it's just giving different territories in the aquarium for your fish to be able to hide and call their own. So yeah, not particularly for actually hiding, but more for them to go to actually say, yep, that's my area, that's where I want to be. Because if you're going to keep a lot of fish together, they need to be able to feel some refuge in the tank. Otherwise, they're just going to be stressed, and that's no way to keep a fish. So, all right, let's get on to the next tip. Okay, so this next one, it's different, but it also continues on from number 4. So number 5 is your fish all need different sized hiding holes. So it's kind of different from their territories. Sometimes it can be 2 in 1, but all your fish need different size hiding holes to be able to actually get away from the fish where the other ones can't access if there's going to be a risk there. So I'm looking at these ones here where we've got the peppermint bristlenose, that they've got these long, slender logs that they can hide in that, you know, yeah, g'day mate, how you going? That they can hide in, that the other fish just can't get into. They can't get in there and live happily. So I guess the convicts could slip in there, but that's okay. Like they can get in there if they need to. So another hiding hole, I guess this big one is for Cronus. He doesn't really need a hiding hole because he's a beast. But Rhea, like she's got the biggest hiding hole in the aquarium. So she's got this whole long passageway, and her other hiding hole, I guess, is this these tall monuments, which I'll get into in a second. So so this one back here, you've got a little convict that's hiding away in there. So, you know, if she angers Cronus or anything like that she can dart away and she can get into a safe place. So I guess that's the main thing, is your fish all need to have a safe place in the tank. So if you're going to just keep a couple of fish in a tank, you know, and they don't need a safe place, and you don't want to have any ornaments or anything in there, then that's totally fine. But if you're going to keep a community where some of your fish are at risk, I definitely believe that that they all need a place that they can kind of get away to and be safe. So that's number 5. Okay, last but not least, number 6, we're going to be talking about blocks. So we're going to be talking visual and physical blocks. So visual blocks, we're talking about things in the tank. I'll stand back a little bit so we can see everything that's in there. But there's a few things that we've got in the tank that are classified as blocks. So we've got the pot that's down here. So that's one of the blocks. That's this massive root column that's in there, the mangrove in the middle, the pot that's over here, the logs on the floor, and these big columns of logs that are over there. So they're visual and physical blocks. So visual blocks are things that are going to stop a fish from seeing each other in the tank. So this log down here, if one fish is on this side and another fish is on the other side of the log, they can't see each other. So that's a visual block. If over here on this side of the tank, if one fish is on this side of the tank, this side of the pot, and one's on the other, or one's on the inside, they can't see each other. So that's a visual block. So there's not going to be aggression when they can't see each other. So that's one of the things that we need to focus on, is visual blocks. The other one is physical blocks. So that's where we want to stop a fish from getting through to a different section of the tank easily. So a physical block for this is, we'll look at the small one first, is that, you know, we don't want, you know, the big male convict cichlids being able to get in and eat the baby bristlenose. So they can't get in there. So that's a physical block that the bigger fish can't get into. The other one is, and the main one in this tank, is actually the mangrove root column that's in the middle here. That mangrove root, it stops Cronus from being able to get easily through to the smaller fish and be able to attack them. So if Rhea needs to dart away and she slips through one of these tiny cracks, then Cronus can't get through because he's too big. Same thing for the convict cichlids. If they're being harassed or by Rhea that's over here, then, you know, they're going to be fine. They can dart away and dart through these little cracks and little hidey holes to be able to get away and hide. So that's what you need to look at. The other one over here is the tall columns. That classifies as a physical and a visual block, that if they hide behind there, nothing's going to be able to see them, and it's going to stop the bigger fish from being able to get past. So that's number 6. So that's all of the 6 top tips that I could really think of for keeping a community of aggressive Central American cichlids of different sizes. If you can come up with any other suggestions or anything like that, feel free to leave that in the comments section below. I hope you've liked this video. I hope you've enjoyed seeing these fish, because this continues to be my favorite tank. These fish are absolutely gorgeous. The convicts and the Argentaeus, we've got a rare fish and a pretty common fish together as one. So, but I really love the combination. So if you've got any other suggestions or anything that I should be doing, leave it in the comment section below. Feel free to like, subscribe. I really appreciate it. And other than that, I will see you guys in the next one. Cheers.